So hey everybody, it's Cam from Women's Outdoor Connection, and I'm really super excited because I'm here with Kim from Surf Vamps, and she's agreed to like have a little conversation with us and tell us more about her group. And so we're really excited to have her coming on October 26th, and we're hoping you can come and meet her too and get involved with all the things that she's doing, including her own personal social media, which I'm a super girl fan of, like fangirling over here. So, Kim, this you take it away. Let us know, like, so tell us how this all got started for you.
Yeah, as you said, my name's Kim, she, her pronouns. Surf Vamp specifically really started, gosh, how far back in the story do we go? So I personally run a social media account called Move Fat Girl that was like kind of born out of this desire to be the representation that I felt like I needed as a kid, like of being a plus size woman in sports and activities. So I started that account a few years ago and it started like growing a little bit. And then probably about 2.5 years ago, I started getting into surfing, and I knew I wanted to do that. But my earliest surf friend connections came from the internet. Like one of them came, my friend Hannah, I met in like a global surf group on Facebook, and then my friend Patty reached out to me. Like we had never met before.
Mhm.
Patty reached out to me on Instagram and was like, "Hey, I'm a local newbie surfer too. If you want to go surfing, let's go." And it was like maybe 2 weeks later, like she pulled up at my house. We loaded surfboards on the roof, and these two strangers that had never met each other in real life headed out to Crescent Beach to go surfing. And that was where it all started. Was Patty and I going surfing together? Patty is the other founder at Surf Vamps, for the record.
Awesome.
Um, and from that point, like our friendship started growing and we started talking a lot about um surf community really.
Mhm.
Um and then in it must have been February of 2022. We had not been surfing in a while and we were like itching to get in the water. So we just went and did a sunset paddle out at the Edmonds Marina.
Mhm.
Um it was like literally freezing out that day and the water was like 46 degrees, so cold. She wanted to test her new wetsuit and I just needed to get into some salt water.
Yeah.
And we started talking that night about how cool so earlier that day I had seen a post from a surf photographer based in the UK, that they were doing this Women's Day paddle out on International Women's Day over in UK.
Oh,
So I was
so
like, hey, it
cool.
would be really cool to organize something like this. And Patty was
Yeah.
like, yeah, let's do it. So that was like 2 weeks before International Women's Day, which is March 8th.
Mhm.
And we just like scrambled and said, okay, we're gonna meet at Ballard at Golden Gardens at this time, International Women's Day. And we just kind of did that one off the cuff. And then over the course of the next year, we started talking a lot about what it would look like to build like an inclusive surf community where people in larger bodies felt welcome and women felt welcome and safe. People like across the gender spectrum felt welcomed and safe.
Yeah.
Because there is like in sports in general, yes, we know there's a lot of elitism, and especially elitism that really impacts women,
Mhm.
that like keeps women out of sports. But
Yeah.
it's particularly gnarly in surfing.
Yeah, I bet. Like, you know, big
It's like
dudes.
a skinny, pretty people sport, and if you don't like fit the stereotype,
Right.
you like it's hard to feel welcome.
Sure.
Um, so we
Well, I
hosted
mean,
that
like
women.
that kind of brings me into like a couple different questions, you know, like w- you're mentioning like that frustration. You know, what have you done personally? Like, do you feel like you've done in order to like make a difference in that area? Because I see that difference in you. And I'm like I had mentioned to you before the call, it's like, you know, I'm almost 6 feet tall and I'm not a small person. And so sometimes I run into these, you know, stereotypes of like, I'm not able to move that way, or I'm not
Yeah,
able to get those things done. And you know, what if you feel like, you know, it's made a difference like for you? Like,
yeah. I think so. Um, there have always been plus size people surfing.
Yeah.
There have always been larger fat bodies in surfing.
Hmm.
They have always been in the warmer climates. And
Hmm.
there's a reason for this. And so in recent years there's been just more inclusivity, that has really been like the charge has been led um by a few plus size surfer accounts, really specifically Curvy Surfer Girl deserves a lot of credit here. um there have been a few plus size surfers, especially like women particularly, but there's some guys too, that are surfing warm waters, making progress and normalizing larger bodies in surfing and really demonstrating that it can be done. um what's Kanoa Green is a good example too. I really hope I'm pronouncing her name properly. I see it all the time and I don't know that I've ever actually said it out loud.
Yeah, that's okay. We can always
But
link it too. So
yeah, she's also like she's a general sort of like active in my plus size body sort of influencer. Um and like seeing them do it, I was like, "Oh, I want to do it, but I live in the Pacific Northwest."
yeah,
Our water temperature range here is like 46 to 59
yeah.
degrees.
Even in the summer, it's like a
like
little
like
chilly.
we
Yeah,
just peaked our water temperatures and they were probably like 58, 59 degrees at their
right.
warmest. And for the record, 60 degrees is the line that's considered dangerously cold water, like kill you
Mhm.
cold water.
Yeah,
70 degrees and below is considered cold water. 60 degrees is like this will kill you and kill you fast from cold water shock.
sure.
um so like you can't surf in a bikini in Washington State at any point in the year safely.
Right.
So the barrier for me getting into surfing, aside from just like there are social barriers, right?
Yeah.
Like socially plus size people and especially plus size women are not welcome in surfing. Like if you don't look socioculturally acceptable in a bikini as a woman, not invited to the surfing community.
Mhm.
Um, but once you get over the social barriers, you now have a gear barrier.
Yeah.
And the gear barrier can be life or death when we're talking about 45, 46-degree water.
Sure.
So I did a ton of research on wetsuits and found one company
Mm.
that did not have any. The company was Truly, they've since ceased to exist. They were the one company making plus size wetsuits. They did not have any in stock in my size. So I wound up using one of my pandemic stimulus checks to order a custom wetsuit.
I love that.
Um, and it was
Yeah.
expensive, and that like because there's not this ready-made stuff for people in bodies like mine,
Sure.
we have to do things like go custom, which like triples the cost of a wetsuit. And wetsuits aren't cheap, but
Yeah.
like a straight size, not a straight size woman, I'm just gonna say a thin woman because the wetsuit industry really serves like sizes 0 through 12.
Mm.
And just to like put that into some context, 68% of women in the United States wear a size 14 plus,
Yeah. No way. Like
and the
it's yeah.
average size of a woman in the United States is a size 16, 18.
Yeah.
So the wetsuit industry at best like really serves sizes 0 through 12. Some brands might offer a 14 that fit like a 12 or offer a 16 that fit like a 14. There's like no plus size wetsuits available. So there's this gear barrier. And if you want to overcome that gear barrier, there's now a financial barrier
Mm.
because it's expensive to overcome by
Sure.
going custom on stuff. And honestly, I forget the question that I'm answering.
Oh no, it's so fine. You're actually doing great. It was just more like you're already telling about the difference that you've made. I mean, by bringing these things up and like showing that, these there are these barriers and how you're
Oh yeah,
helping like change that dynamic is incredible. I mean, and it's not even just the dynamic in surfing. I mean, there's a dynamic just in the industry, like the outdoor industry as a whole.
oh yeah,
We really, I think we've done, like you mentioning that the average size body, woman's body is not what people anticipate it or think that it
right.
is. It really isn't.
And honestly,
So
go to like any outdoor supplier website and choose any sport. if you like look at stuff that has a gender divide and like I'm team like choose whatever works for you, but there's a reason, there's like a physiological reason. So I'm also a hockey player. I play ice hockey.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I know I've seen that
Um
actually. Yeah.
and I wear all men's gear until very recently. I was able to get a pair of Stark shoulder protectors that actually are designed to accommodate boobs.
Yeah.
Until this point, the first 5 years of my hockey experience, I was playing in shoulder guards that was not designed for my physiology.
Sure.
I'm still playing in pants that is designed for someone who's like 6'4", because in
Sure.
order to get them large enough, and this is a safety issue. This is a
Yeah.
major, major safety issue.
Well, what's interesting
Um,
when you mentioning the hockey aspect, like so I ice skated from the point that I was like 2.5, 3 years old until I was 14. But
yeah,
it was ice skating and performing and competing and such. And now I see young girls in that age group, like 4 to 7, that are given the option of doing that type of ice skating or hockey. And I'm like, yes, that's awesome. Because I was never given that opportunity. Like I remember
more women should
watching
have
like
the opportunity to check people.
I would have been really good at it. Like, I would have
It's
been
not
really,
too
really
late.
good at it. I
I think some of
remember
our oldest club members are in their 70s,
I
so
remember like I remember like being on the ice skating rink and watching the hockey players get ready and all that. And like, oh, I could like really do that, but like it just wasn't an option. So,
yeah,
really to answer the question, and what the question was is like you're making a difference in the industry just by showing up and by making people aware that like there needs to be like equipment and things
yeah.
that fit a certain body type or fit basically females. I mean, we have chests, and that's just the facts.
And that's what I was gonna say. Like, go to any outdoor supplier or sport equipment supplier website, and anything that has like that gender divide,
Yeah,
you're gonna like when you filter, you're gonna find that like men probably have like between probably 30 and 50% more options than
yeah,
women in general for any one piece of equipment or one
yeah,
piece of gear or one piece of apparel. And then when you try to filter that by plus sizes, like you're gonna let's say you start with 1,500 items and then you filter for women, you're going to cut that down to maybe like 600 items.
if
And then
that.
when you filter for plus sizes, you're going to cut that down to something like 30 items.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and this is ubiquitous across the sports world. And we are getting a little bit more quality options,
Hmm.
but also we've also, like, in the last, like, we made a lot of progress for a few years. And in the last year or maybe 2 years, like we're actually starting to see some of that slide. Like there
Mm.
was this big move where like REI started carrying some of their extended sizing on the store floor,
Yeah, I
and
remember
he
seeing
kind of
that.
took that away.
Yeah.
They're like, no one's shopping it. I'm like, okay, but you marketed it
Yeah, you're
during a
not
pandemic.
marketing it. Like you're not advertising it.
You're not marketing it to the right crowd,
Correct.
and you did it during a pandemic.
Sure.
Old
Yeah,
Navy did the same thing. They're like, okay, we're gonna carry all of our plus sizes in store. And
right.
then they like didn't like have a long enough marketing run to make it matter because we were still largely closed down as a society. Like
Yeah.
there were a couple of brands that like, we're gonna do this, and it's like 2020. And I'm like, great, I'm not coming.
Yeah, yeah, So tell me, like, what some of in your life and in your movement life, like within the industry, but also like within just outdoor stuff, what is one of the most memorable moments that you can think of? Like, can you pinpoint like any specific
Well,
moment?
there are probably a lot of moments, but like let's just talk about like because we're focused on surf vamps, just surfing.
Yeah.
Um, it was in April of what year is it? 2024. So this would have been 2022, I think, if math is mathing. Um, I went down to California and my friend uh Rochelle gifted me my first surf lesson. Um, and like I waited out with the instructor And I was like super super self-conscious because I'm like in my plus size body. The instructor like really quickly made me feel really good that like
Mhm.
that I'm safe with him. Um and he pushed me into the like I got on the board and he pushed me into my first wave and I did not get to my feet, but I caught the energy of the wave and I felt that transfer that happens when like your board connects to the ocean and that energy just grabs you and pulls you. And I rode that wave on my belly all the way to the point where the fins hit the sand on the beach. Um and like that moment of feeling that energy catch was so thrilling and it was just like I'm going to be chasing this feeling for the rest of my life.
Right?
And then later that day, and this was kind of a cool thing, my friend Rochelle was on the beach during my lesson and she had taken some pictures, and I don't think she got that wave on photo. Um, but like there's this one picture where I'm not quite on my feet. I'm like clearly off kilter, but that instructor is just standing in the back cheering for me.
I love it.
And I was like, man, if more men cheered for women, and especially plus size women, our
Yeah,
world would be a very different place.
sure.
Like that guy, I was so nervous to get in the water
Yeah.
with like a surfer dude
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
because of like the social barrier aspect. But then he like really quickly made me comfortable. And then like in the photos, he's just standing behind me
I
cheering.
love that.
And man, how would the world change if men
What a
cheered
great
for women
memory.
more often?
I think that that's not even just true for like men. I mean, I'm a bit of an empath, or I am an
Yeah.
empath, and so like for me, like I think it's like incredibly important, like to be that way with everyone you meet. Like
Yeah.
I think our society is so quickly we don't encourage each other. We don't support each other and build each other up, and
Yeah.
there's that competitive side as well, that kind of causes us sometimes to be that way, but it makes such a difference. I mean like that fist in the air and like that
Yeah.
organic feeling is really
One
amazing. And
thing
I'm
that,
sure on the wave it probably felt very similar to what it feels like when I'm skiing,
oh
and
yeah.
or like even when I'm kayaking or anything and I'm like just out on the water, and the things that you get to witness and see. I saw,
Oh yeah.
I was
Like you're
kayaking the other day and
literally
there was like
connected to the energy of the ocean.
100%.
The Pacific Ocean is like has captured you and is moving you.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And just that energy of just being outdoors as well.
Yeah.
So what what do you want people specifically to know about overcoming challenges such as you've had? Like, is there any message that you could pass on?
Yeah, I think like there are a few almost like refrains. I wouldn't describe myself as like clinically anxious. So I want to be careful how I use terms and stuff like that.
Sure.
Like not clinically anxious, but I do deal with a lot of anxiety when I'm entering into sports spaces because there have been so many times where I have not been welcome and where I have been rejected and where it has played out poorly for me. So I enter into these spaces with just like a lot of self-doubt still to this day. Um, and the thing that really runs through my head is just the idea, just like do things afraid.
Mhm.
Just like whatever that fear is, do it anyhow. And there are definitely some fears that are designed to save your life. Like
Sure.
please don't jump off a cliff without a parachute. Like your body telling you that's scary is correct.
Yeah.
Um but when we see like other people doing these things and we're like, okay, we know that other people can do them.
Sure.
We know that it's feasible for the human body to survive that.
Yeah.
Like just being able to do things afraid. And then I think like a real big thing, and I learned this first and foremost in hockey. I started playing hockey about 5 years ago before I started getting really deep into water sports. Um, and I've always been in the water, but like uh started getting into water sports really more like when the pandemic hit. I bought a kayak with my other pandemic stimulus check. And my third pandemic stimulus check was a paddleboard for the record. um all of that money went to getting me in and on the water. Probably could have gone to other things, but mental
No.
health first.
Mm-mm. You spent it perfectly.
I really feel like I did.
Yeah.
Um but the other thing that like really keeps me sort of chugging along that I learned in hockey very thoroughly and very well is that when you're getting into new sports as an adult, you have to get very good at being very comfortable with looking very stupid.
Mm,
If you can get over that, like that I have to be good at it, like
hmm.
just commit to being bad at it. If it brings you joy
Sure.
while you're bad at it, do it poorly. And
Yeah.
obviously you don't want to stay there. Like you are, like I'm a big continual improvement, but I'm a
Hmm.
terrible surfer. Just like real talk. Like I'm not good at surfing, but it brings me so much joy. And if I
Yeah.
am never good at surfing, I will continue to do it. And obviously, I want to grow. I want to get better at it. Same with hockey. Like I play in like the second lowest division of my club because I started playing hockey in my early 30s.
Right.
Um, but like if you can get over like the fear of being bad at something and the fear of looking dumb doing something, you
Hmm.
can go so much farther and do so many cool things.
Yeah, sure.
Just commit to looking stupid.
Yeah. I mean, I really think that's a really great piece of advice because, even on the mountain, when I'm teaching people that are adults and they're slapping on those rental boots and, and the rental skis, and I'm just like, oh no. So, but like, because honestly, like, none of that is helping you. But
Yeah,
I love when I see them come out and then I get them on snow turning and they're smiling and laughing even when they're falling. And it's
yeah,
just that level of joy where your inner child basically sort of shows
yeah.
up. I think that's really cool. So thank you. I think that was a
If you
really
can
good.
quell that inner adult voice that says, I'm
Yes.
gonna get hurt, I'm gonna look dumb, I'm gonna be embarrassed, I'm gonna be bad at it, like turn off your adult voice and rely on that inner child. Your inner
Yeah.
child is way cooler than you are.
Yeah, no, for real. Like I really agree. So, what are two people in your life thus far that have really inspired you?
Ooh, um, I thought about this question
Or
earlier and I
one? I mean, it doesn't even have to be two. It could be just like one.
and it's not that there are like no people, it's just that like a lot of people have inspired me in little ways rather than like a few people in really big ways.
Sure.
Um, I think, and I know this is gonna seem like kind of a cheat answer, but the way my friends cheer for one another.
Mm,
And I was gonna mention this earlier when we were talking about like supporting people around us, but like one thing that's really cool about surfing in a pack of women is that you just hear women cheering for one another all the
mm,
time. Like everybody's cheering when one person catches a wave. And
mm.
I've had a few opportunities to like go down and surf in like Newport Beach at Blackie's and stuff like that. And that crew there is doing the same thing. Like the women in the water there are cheering for the women in the water.
Yeah.
And then like playing hockey, like one of my favorite things is that like I get to play with and against friends. And being able to say like a friend who just scored on my team, like, look, I hated that, but it was really good.
Yeah.
Like you did a good job, and I hate that you did a good job.
And that's
Like kind of that
inspiring.
cheeky approach to it. But I think the community that I found in women's sports and how the women I'm surrounded by are cheering for other women in big and small ways,
Yeah.
that I think has been really inspiring. And that's like what's taken me from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. Like if the women's sports community is like this here,
Yeah.
maybe it'll be like it here
Yeah.
and here and here.
Well, I'm gonna get
So I
you on
think like
snow.
yeah, women cheering for women
Did you hear
is
me? I'm gonna
yeah.
put you on some skis and throw you down the mountain.
I did just get a new pair of bibs. Snow
Okay.
bibs.
Well,
I've never skied and skiing scares me, but I would try it. I
okay.
snowboarded as a teenager and I low key want to get back into snowboarding.
Sure.
But
Okay.
high key don't want to pick up any more expensive sports right now.
Oh no, that's fair. I mean, that's totally fair. Yeah, and I mean honestly, some of the reason I can afford half of it is because I do teach. So,
Yeah,
that really it helps for sure. So,
yeah.
we're we're at a point where I think I'm gonna have us take a little bit of a break, and
Okay.
then we're gonna come back and we're gonna do some rapid fire questions. And those ones basically are like one word answers are fine, or like
Okay.
whatever you want to come up with. But
Okay.
and I'm gonna just say, Kim, I'm so happy that we've had these moments together.
Me too.
I think, I've always admired what you're doing, and I think that Surf Amps is wicked cool. And just like I said, I'm gonna get you on skis, you need to get me on a surfboard.
Yeah,
So
I'm in. Let's
yeah,
do a trade fee.
we'll
We're
do
we're surfing.
we'll do
We've
a
got
trade-off,
Surfoween coming
right?
up on October 19th.
Okay, well, maybe. Oh, I'm gonna be gone. But that's
Okay.
okay. We'll find another day. And
Okay.
I shared that on my Instagram. So tell everybody a little bit about what that is, just really quickly.
So, Surf Vamps is hosting another surf gathering on October 19th at Crescent Beach. We'll probably be in the water around 11 a.m., but we're still waiting on the wave forecast to come out to like make a hard call on that. Surferween is just we're gonna go surfing together with costumes over our wetsuits.
I love that.
And
So
that was inspired by that community down at Blackie's in Newport Beach. They the surfistas host a annual Halloween surf. They do it on Halloween. We don't really have the luxury of being right on the beach, so we had to do a little planning. So October 19th, Crescent Beach, late morning, let's call it. And we're gonna be in costume on the water, and it's gonna be ridiculous and delightful.
that's amazing. So we'll be able to put a link, I think, to your Instagram for that, for both Surf Amps and for your Move Fat Girl. And we'll
Cool.
see you back here in just a few minutes. So
Sounds good.
okay, sounds good.